There are definitely condescending and rude male agents. And I don't know that they're rude to me just because I'm a woman, or they're just rude to
Right.
everybody.
Yeah.
A lot of I feel like loan officers who are men, I feel talked down to sometimes. And then as far as actually working, sometimes I feel like I do have to work a little bit harder to get the business because I am a woman.
From the Sarah Smiles Network, I'm Sarah Smiles, and this is the Consider the Source podcast, a show about women who've built ideas, movements, and careers by questioning the status quo and challenging norms in the hopes of inspiring other women. In today's episode, we have Maryam Gates, who is a real estate agent in the Denver area. In this episode, Maryam talks about the struggles of what it's like to be in real estate, especially as a woman, and developing your own personal brand, because that's largely what most of these real estate postings rely on, is your own personal brand. What that means, how she created it, what other pitfalls that she's run into, and most importantly, what makes it all worth it. So without further ado, here is Maryam.
My name is Maryam. I'm a residential real estate agent in Denver. I work with home buyers and sellers, and what's really important to me and how I provide service is I like to provide luxury, white glove, concierge style service at any price point. So that's a little bit about me and what I do.
Yeah, awesome. So how did you really get into...
I just had enough, honestly. It was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And real estate just seemed like kind of an easy career to get into. And it is easy to get into, but it's not easy to stay in. I'll tell you that.
And that's what I hear, yeah. It's because it's pretty much, you don't necessarily need a degree to be a realtor or real estate agent. You just have to complete the coursework to do it, correct?
Exactly. Do your classes, take the test, and then if you pass your licensing exam, essentially you're a real estate agent.
Yeah, which is kind of a wild concept, because I feel like that's almost similar to like a trade route, whereas it doesn't necessarily have that same stigma as being in a trade, if that makes sense, of like, you don't need like extensive schooling for this specific career, but you do need to test and make sure that you know all of the particular verbiage and all of the laws that relate to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it differs from a trade because I do think you actually learn most of what you need to know when you're working a trade. I've never done it, so I could be completely wrong. But as far as real estate goes, you kind of don't learn how to be a real estate agent. You learn the back end real estate stuff. You learn a little bit about contracts. You learn all the terms, but nobody tells you how to be a real estate agent. You're kind of just left on your own after school. I mean, you join a brokerage.
Which is wild.
Yeah, they will provide the training and such, but that doesn't happen in school.
Yeah. So you would at least think that there's like some sort of mentorship period for a brief period before you get your license to become a realtor or real estate agent. Which, is there a difference, by the way, of real estate agent and realtor?
Yeah, so a real estate agent is just someone who's passed the real estate licensing exam. A realtor, they're part of the National Association of Realtors. So the biggest difference is you have to take an ethics course every 3 years. So it's just like a higher level of being a real estate agent.
Okay,
But,
interesting.
but not really like that. I feel like nobody...
It's another certification.
Yeah, it's nobody really... I feel like the general public doesn't really know the difference, and it doesn't make a difference to them.
Well, I'm the general public, and yeah, no, I don't know the difference, so there's that. But yeah, it's definitely, I feel like I'm hearing a lot more about realtors and real estate agents as I'm getting into my later part of my 20s, and my friends are buying houses and talking about real estate agents and realtors that they've worked with, and I'm like, what is the big hubbub? Like, why is this something we're talking about? Like, we're not talking about car salesmen in the same capacity. And I had come to find out that you develop and you need a better relationship with a real estate agent, because there is so much more that goes into buying a home than a car, which makes sense, but they're both still like great purchases and big investments into your own pocketbook.
Yeah, absolutely. For most people, buying a house is probably the biggest purchase they'll make in their lives. And
Yeah.
there's just a lot of laws that go into it. There's another
Mm-hmm.
party. If you're a buyer, there's the seller that's involved in it. You have to transfer title. You have to make sure no one's put liens on the property. A lot more goes into it versus like, buying a car.
Right.
But yeah, it's such an important, huge purchase. And I think it really takes a lot of care, and it really takes a good guide who can educate
Mm-hmm.
you, because honestly, buying a house is so scary. I bought my own house, I was my own agent. It was
Oh,
terrible.
wow.
I was like, logically, I know all these things, but I'm so emotional because
Yeah.
I'm close to the deal. It's my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, talk to me about that. So you're going through and you're talking to the seller of the house and you're like, "Hey, so I'm actually also the agent." Like, how does that work?
So there's a listing agent and then a buyer's agent. So I was
Mm-hmm.
the buyer's agent for myself. So I communicated with the listing agent. You do have to
Okay.
write in the contract that like you're a licensed agent and the additional
Okay.
provisions. So did that. But I mean, it's essentially the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no buffer. I I was the
Yeah.
agent to myself. I was an big part of my job is calming my buyers or my sellers' fears, explaining things to them,
Mm-hmm.
comforting them, being empathetic,
Mm-hmm.
but also helping to find solutions and move forward. When I'm the one who's emotional, it's hard for me to logically
Right.
get myself out of that and calm myself down. So it was very, very emotional.
Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, it's your own voice in your head, and they always say you're your biggest critic. And so I feel like going through a really intensive process like that has to be really burdensome on your own mental state, especially because you're like, I should be able to do this. I don't know why this is so difficult. And then you start grappling with like probably a sense of imposter syndrome, I have to imagine.
It definitely teaches you how to be a better agent, I think. So that was my
Yeah.
first house. I will likely buy another house, and I'm going to go into it, and it's going to be so different because I've already been
Mm-hmm.
through it once before, so I know what to expect,
Right.
which is great. But most buyers don't have that. Or first time
Yeah.
buyers, like people within my sphere and age range,
Mm-hmm.
haven't been through it. So they also get that
Yeah.
same emotion.
And talk to me more about, you said that you work with both buyers and sellers. So, what is obviously there's a huge difference in a buyer versus a seller. Someone's looking to buy a house and someone's looking to sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the focus on, like, if you're just a real estate agent or a realtor for sellers, or if you're just a real estate and broker, or not broker, real estate agent for a buyer? Like, what does that really look like? And is it a pretty big feat to accommodate both?
Colorado, you aren't allowed to be a dual agent. So you can't work with both the buyer and the seller as an agent, as a fiduciary. You can be a transaction broker, which is a whole nother thing.
Wow.
Essentially, you're just writing the paperwork for both parties. You can't
Mm-hmm.
advise. So there's no dual agency. So
Mm-hmm.
I am either working with a buyer or I'm working with a seller in a transaction. With sellers, there's a lot more prep that goes into it initially. You have to get the listing ready, getting
Mm-hmm.
contractors. There's a lot of prep to get the listing ready. And then,
Right.
depending on how it's going, you check in with the seller every week. If
Mm-hmm.
it seems like the market's not responding very well, then you might have to go in and do some research, reach out to people who have been interested. I would say being a listing agent takes a lot of work. And that's
Yeah.
kind of on the upfront part. So once you go under
Mm-hmm.
contract and you kind of negotiate with a buyer, come to an agreement, it's kind of smooth
Mm-hmm.
sailing for the most part once you're under contract. Of course, like anything can happen within the contract, and our contracts in Colorado are very buyer friendly. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit it's kind of spooky sometimes on the listing side, depending on how the market's going. When you're working with a buyer, you are also doing a lot of work up front, truthfully. You're setting them up on search, giving them a consultation, figuring out what they want, touring homes, writing contracts. And then once you're under contract, you're going through a whole due diligence period where it's really a lot of work that the buyer is doing once you're in the contract.
Okay.
I know that
Wow.
was
And so,
probably a lot of jargon that is not familiar with
no, it's
everyone.
good information. It's definitely good information. And so, obviously, you have become an expert in both of the realms of buying and selling. And it seemingly to me, there's a lot of information to digest. And like you said, you're not learning everything in your classes or through your coursework or through whatever certification that you're getting. So how did you end up learning and fostering all of this growth? Was it through an agency or was it just on your own merit? How did you come to learn all of this information?
So when you are a new licensee, you have to hang your license underneath the brokerage. So they are kind
Mm-hmm.
of assuming some of the liability because you don't know what you're doing yet. And so
Okay.
depending on what brokerage you join, like you're going to get a lot of support, a lot of mentorship. When I first got my license, I joined a brokerage that did very little. They took
Mm-hmm.
very little. So you have to pay splits and for most brokerages, so they will take part of my compensation. They get like
Okay.
30%, I get 70%. So they took very little, and I was like, okay, cool, love that. I'm getting more of my money. But they offered nothing, and I didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't know that I actually
Okay.
needed a lot more support. So I left that brokerage and moved to a brokerage that took a higher split from my
Mm-hmm.
compensation, but they are offering so much in terms of marketing, coaching, mentorship, just
Mm-hmm.
a plethora of resources. So that's kind of how I came into knowing and learning and just through doing deals, right? Like I think I'll just
Right.
continually be learning because every deal is different. I'm sure I'm going to run
Right.
into so many different scenarios.
Yeah. And the part about marketing that you just said is so interesting to me because I feel like I have seen so many realtors on my For You page or on TikTok or wherever just talking about listings that they are showing. I feel like when I was on Facebook in elementary school and like middle school, I don't remember ever seeing that come up, and probably because I wasn't looking to buy a home at that point in time. But I feel like it's a much more prominent thing now. So the listings themselves, then you're doing the marketing for. So how much of that marketing is actually done by you? And like, do you have to pay for a videographer? Do you have to pay for like people to stage it and set up the home and all of that fun stuff? Like, what does that look
Yeah, so I think a lot of different agents will do things differently, and it might just depend on price point too. Because I know there's an agent on my team who has ultra like high net worth clients, and those listings are over $3 million. She will pay for that staging because she's offering just this higher level of service.
like? Mm-hmm.
As far as like more of like the average home sales, okay, so different agents will do different things. But what
Sure.
I do for my listings is I will pay for the photographer, I'll pay for cleaning, videographer, maybe depending. I pay for
Mm-hmm.
postcards, I pay for the little sheets that you have out that tell you about the home,
Mm-hmm.
and I make videos on TikTok. And so, yep, just like all of them. But
Yeah.
that's kind of my value proposition within the listing. I do always recommend staging, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Your house is going to sell quicker for more money. There's actual stats about that. I don't personally pay for staging because this is an upfront investment for the seller to get more money from the sale.
Okay. So that's a lot of information to try and like figure out on your own. And then plus on top of all the other legalities of the home buying process. And as you continue moving forward and you're like, okay, I'm able to do all this stuff on my own. At what point did you realize like, okay, I'm already doing all of this stuff for a brokerage? When do you start to realize maybe I should just start doing this on my own so I don't have to have someone take a cut of my paycheck?
There are a lot of people so technically, I think it's after 2 years you can go off on your own. Don't quote me on that though.
Okay.
I don't know that I would actually ever just go off on my own because So where I'm at right now, my brokerage is the agency. We're a global brokerage. They have such
Mm-hmm.
a huge reach, which I would never be able to get on my own. Like no matter how hard I
Right.
tried, I would not be able to have a global reach.
Right.
Just being a young girl in Colorado.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel like how would one even come up with trying to find a listing in the area if you typically, I imagine that most people go to a brokerage to list their home anyways, as opposed to going to a specific individual. I feel like that just makes things a little bit more convoluted. So yeah, it definitely makes more sense. But in terms of being a real estate agent and a broker and also your own marketing team and trying to figure out that whole realm of things, you have to create your own branding.
Mhm.
So talk to me about what that looks like and how you've done that with the white glove service and what you're able to provide to homeowners and home buyers.
I think my brand timeline has varied. I kind of just wanted to be very aesthetic when I first was like trying to build my brand because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I thought. I was like, colors, logos, fonts, like this is what my brand is. And I think I've just learned through my mentors, through reading real estate books from like some of the top real estate agents in the world, that your brand is actually just who you are and how you work and what feels authentic to you. And that's what feels authentic
Right.
to me. And it, like, sure, you can have the logos and all the colors and that stuff. Like, that's cute and that's nice. It looks good. It's professional. But I don't want
Mm-hmm.
my brand to just be an aesthetic. I want it to be meaningful
Right.
and something of value that people can actually get. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to go work with Maryam. You know she's going to listen. You know she's going to have your back. You know she's going to tell you everything that needs to happen before you even think about it.
Right. And I mean that's I feel like that's so much easier said than done because like I mean you can go onto Canva and create a template of here are the fonts that I'm going to use and here's what I'm going to choose to make my colors be and here's what the logo is. But I feel like it's so much more difficult to find what your values are. At least what values that you want to convey through your own platform. So how did you find, okay, these are the maybe three things that I want to focus on, and here's what I want to be known for, here's what I want my clients to be saying about me. How did you get to that realm of this is what I want to be known for?
I think I don't think I actually came to the conclusion myself. I think this is what was told to me by like my reviews from my clients. Like I just was noticing the same
Mhm.
themes. I'm like, oh, I guess this is like, that is how I do business. This is how I am. Like, you're right. So
Yeah.
it wasn't something that I originally just thought of. Like I kind of just took the themes from what I was already doing and what my clients were already saying about me. And I was like, I like this. I want them to keep saying this. And this is how I do business. And it's me. It's
Yeah.
authentic to me.
Yeah. And how are you getting those reviews? Is that something that was in like the post documentation process of the home buying process? Or did they just leave a review on Yelp or what?
So I have a Google business page.
Mm-hmm.
So you can leave reviews on there. And so
Yep.
typically once we close, I ask them like, hey, obviously I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be a real estate agent for life. I'm going to check in on you. So let me know if there's any issues that happen after
Mm-hmm.
closing. And if you would be so kind to leave me a review, it really helps my business. I'll send them a link to my Google business and then also on Zillow. You can leave reviews for your agents.
Okay, so who monitors Zillow? Because I feel like there might be some, like, I don't know. Zillow to me is just a very scary place, and you probably have a different sentiment towards it. But anytime I get on Zillow, I get like a pang of anxiety of, oh my gosh, this is like everything that's available in this area. And then on top of that, I just feel like Zillow is so easily accessible by people and potentially by like bots or potentially by like spam accounts or people that maybe your enemies from high school that don't want to see you do well. Like how much of that is easily accessible to a normal person, or do you have to purchase a home to be
So
able to leave a review?
I have feelings about Zillow. But as far as the
Okay.
review process goes, so you can leave a review and it asks you options like, did you buy a home with this person? Did you sell a home with this person? Or I think there's another option. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But you go in and you click that and you kind of have to verify with, like, they have your sales. Once you
Oh,
close,
okay.
it's linked to you and your license. Zillow has access
Okay.
to that, so they can kind of that I yeah, you don't get any fake reviews.
Okay. So
Yeah.
there's no like bots and crawlers that are just spamming you with false information. Well, that's good to know at least then. But okay, so talk to me about your thoughts on Zillow and where you stand with Zillow.
Okay.
And you can be totally honest. It's not like I'm sponsored by Zillow at all.
Zillow is first and foremost a for-profit company that
Mhm.
is trying to sell leads to real estate agents, and they do.
Okay.
Zillow makes a lot of money from real estate agents.
Mhm.
I think I hate
Okay.
a Zillow's estimate. That is,
Me too. And mostly just because I don't like seeing that a two-bedroom apartment off of Colfax Avenue is close to $1 million because what?
I mean, that's Denver is a great place to buy real estate. Our values hold pretty strong. But yeah, I
Well,
don't,
good.
people put so, like home sellers especially put so much stock into the Zestimate and Zillow, and I don't think it's in their best interest, but it's everyone goes on Zillow. I go
Mm,
on Zillow too. Like it's easy to
yeah.
get onto, but it's not necessarily a real estate agent's tool. It's not a tool that I
Yeah.
use. And I was on a program that was doing Zillow leads for a little while. So
Oh,
that
wow.
also might be why I have a little bit of feelings. Um,
A negative sentiment towards Zillow.
oh, yeah, because I mean, you get calls and it's just people who already have a real estate agent calling you to show them a house.
Mm-hmm.
People who aren't serious ask you to call them a house.
Yeah.
People who say they want to see something and then don't show up. I wasted a lot of time on
Mm.
Zillow. So that's why it kind of
Yeah, so have
stings a
I.
little.
And that's just as a renter. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm just trying to rent a home. I'm trying to rent an apartment. But I could totally see where that would get super frustrating because I feel like real estate is one of the few careers where you have a lot of like new media recently that has come for better or worse for people to be tracking how much their rent should be or tracking how much their mortgage is going to cost or what the Zestimate on their home is going to be. Like you have apartments.com, you have Zillow, you have, I don't know, probably five other different apps that you can virtually do the same thing. And I could only imagine how annoying that must be to get a phone call of like, why are we listing it as this? Or why are you even proposing that we're listing it as this when Zillow says this? Like, what do you say to that?
I say that Zestimates are not accurate. Zillow even has, it's hard to find a whole page
Mm-hmm.
about how Zestimates are not your actual value and you should get with a real estate professional to figure it out. It's an
Hmm.
algorithm, right? They just look at what is
Yeah.
selling, put it in their computer, spit out a number. Zillow's never been in your home. It's never been in any of the homes. You know,
Yeah.
the price of a home greatly depends on its condition.
Mm-hmm.
So that dumpy house that sold down the road for
Mm-hmm.
under market value might be dropping the value of yours. So yours estimate could be higher. I'd say it's typically lower these days, but
Yeah.
I will say though, Zillow is pretty great for finding rentals though, like from
Yeah.
private landlords.
I would have to agree with that. I found probably two out of my four rental properties through Zillow, which is pretty like impressive stat. 50%, like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I did find another one on Craigslist. Wouldn't recommend doing that again, but you know you take what you can get.
Yeah.
But with the housing that is going on in Denver, or not housing, but the housing cycle and how it ebbs and flows in terms of it's a buyer's market or it's a seller's market. What type of market are we currently in? And when I say we, I mean the people of Denver. And is the people of Denver different than the people of the US?
So yes, 100%. Even within Denver, I can't give you just like one blanket answer and say it's a buyer's
Okay.
market. And I know a
Mm,
lot of agents who will. And I think that's just doing a disservice to people, especially if they actually like want to know, because you're
mm-hmm.
just not setting the right expectations. So it depends. It's kind of
Yeah.
a tale of two markets, I would say. Things are
Mm-hmm.
sitting on the market a little bit longer. You know, people are dropping prices because they didn't like price it correctly from the beginning. And
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the neighborhood, it depends on the home. If there's a ready to go, move in ready, beautifully updated home in like the City Park West area at a good price,
Yeah.
that home is going that first weekend on market, most likely.
Wow.
So you can't advise your buyers to say like, oh yeah, it's total buyer's
Yeah.
market. Like let's go in and take our time with things. It really depends on the neighborhood, what price point you're looking in. But I would
Hmm.
say it's buyer friendly for the most part. And that does
So
not relate to the US because all market real estate is hyper local.
yeah, I mean, I had moved into Boston, and that was a seller's market from the time that I was there, and that was pretty much all throughout Boston. And then moved to San Diego. Now I've lived here for almost 2 years. But it's so interesting because I feel like what you're saying, it is different depending on what region that you're in. But the thing that's so interesting to me that intrigues me about what your role then is how do you know when you're putting the bid in at, or hey, like maybe let's go over asking, or let's go right in at asking, or let's go under asking. Like, how do you keep track of all of that if it's a constantly fluctuating market?
That is a great question. So I if I have a client that's interested in a property, I'm going to run a CMA, so a comparative market analysis. I'm going to see
Mm-hmm.
what homes have been selling for within the last 90 days, compare it to the property. I'm going to, if there's properties under contract, I'll call them like, hey, what are you under contract for? And
Mm-hmm.
then look at showing data. Basically, I'm just looking at the numbers and seeing,
Yeah.
what is something that I would advise my client to offer. But ultimately, it's their decision what they want to do. So
Yeah.
I can only advise so much. If
Yeah.
somebody wants to really go in super low and I say, okay, I will say that. I'm like, we could do that. I don't recommend it. I want you to
Mm-hmm.
know that this is not my recommendation, but
Mm-hmm.
I am your fiduciary. This is my job, and this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Yeah, that has to be a lot like having a small child and just accepting that what they want to do is like what you kind of have to do. But, anyways, the part that's so intriguing to me is because with real estate agents, you have to hold what is in the best interest for your clients. And that's because, like what you said earlier in the episode, I'm going to continue to be a real estate agent for the long haul. Like, this is my lifetime career, that's what I'm doing. And you work in both buying and selling. And so, if these people want to come back and sell their home in 10, 15 years, maybe 2 months, who knows? But they'll come to you if they had a positive experience. So there's part of branding in that. But do you ever feel like when you tell somebody, hey, that's really far under asking, we should probably not do that? Do you feel like they think that you're just telling them that because you make a commission on the house? Like, what is the sentiment behind when people go against what you advise?
So I always want my clients to trust me at every step within the contract. I know that
Mm-hmm.
there's times where things get a little bit sticky, and I can tell that there's a little bit of hesitation and it feels like they're losing some trust. That's when I take a moment. I'm like, let's regroup. Let's like talk to me about what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I am advising this because of this. Here are your options as far as this goes. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to make the decision. Here's why I'm advising this. Tell me how you're feeling. Like just we have to work through it, and
Yeah.
it is a battle, but I do think like for the most part my clients trust me through every step of the contract, and that's kind of how I keep it from getting too messy.
Yeah.
But like that it's written in my contract with my buyer. Like
Yeah.
I'm working with you for you. This is in your best interest. And
Mm-hmm.
I think like what we're talking about is probably like not that serious, like coming in way under asking. Whatever, we can
Right.
like go back and renegotiate there. It's a little bit different when it's kind of a harder market or when something's competitive and they
Right.
could miss out on the house. And so that's I feel like that's when tensions are a little high because it's just a little more high stakes.
Right. And would you say that Denver's market right now, and this is probably also a loaded question that's like it depends on what area you're looking in, but is the Denver proper area, and I'm not talking about any specific suburb or any specific neighborhood or anything, is that a competitive market right now, or is it kind of just like, meh, people are buying, people are selling at a pretty normal rate?
I would say balanced
Yeah.
feels like a good word to use. I mean, we are seeing an increase of inventory. We have a lot more inventory than we've had in the past few years, but
Mm-hmm.
we also had no inventory for a really long time.
Yeah.
We're just in the middle of a changing market and it
Yeah.
feels balanced. Mortgage applications are up. People want to
Hmm.
buy homes. People want to sell their homes. And in any market, you have to sell your home if you have to sell your home. And if you need to buy a place,
Right.
you got to buy a place.
Right.
And like I said, it is very dependent on that neighborhood that you're looking in. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like Green Valley Ranch, I would say that is an incredibly strong buyer's market. Pick whatever,
Yeah.
you can have whatever house you want.
And why is that?
I think it's because there's a lot of new builds and people got in
Mm.
at that time. It's all
Yeah.
those subdivisions are going up, people are moving in, and it's just that time
Mm-hmm.
where they're like, okay, well, done living here.
Yeah, yeah. That's wild. I feel like what I have experienced with being a transplant to Denver is that it seems that there's a lot of influx of people and primarily young people. My question then is, are these people converting over to buying homes or are they just coming, renting, and leaving?
I would say that it depends. I think
Mm-hmm.
if you are moving here and you are kind of a young professional who's starting to get established in their career, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of age range and that kind of buyer pool, those are the people that are buying because they
Mm-hmm.
are likely going to stay here. I think it's people who kind of, those digital nomads who you can work from
Right.
anywhere, or people who aren't really rooted in their career quite yet. I
Mm-hmm.
see that happening where people will move back home. And
Right.
I think too, there is this little genre of people who are getting married and then getting pregnant and starting to, have families. And
Mm-hmm.
they realize that they don't really have that support here
Right.
because they're from somewhere else. So they move back to be with
Mm.
family to get that village.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like on the other side of that, then you have people that have sort of extreme amount of wealth. I won't say extreme, but extreme relative to like normal people in the fact that they're able to buy not only one home, but multiple homes and potentially rent out homes and you maybe even use this as just a vacation property that they don't intend on renting out. Is that something that you see extremely common in the Denver area, or is that something that's more specific to like ski areas?
It happens a little bit in Denver for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some rental restrictions, so you have to get a license to rent out your home in Denver. Airbnb, there's qualifications for that too. I don't have an Airbnb or I have not rented out my
Mm-hmm.
home because I'm living in it. So I don't
Yeah.
know kind of that barrier to entry there. I know for a while it was pretty tough,
Mm-hmm.
that you could only, rent out or Airbnb your primary residence. But I definitely still see that. I would say it's not
Mm-hmm.
as much as maybe it was back in like 2020, 2021, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Is uh, it's harder to, and I guess it depends on who's buying the home, but it's harder to make a
Mm-hmm.
profit or make any kind of cash flow because interest rates are higher. You're coming in, you're buying this
Gotcha.
house, the mortgage payment is $3,000. You can only really rent it for maybe 32,
Mm-hmm.
and it just doesn't really financially make sense.
Right. So going back to your career and your white glove business, how would you describe what the process looks like? Or walk me through rather what the process of, okay, I found your listing on TikTok or Instagram. I'm gonna send you a message or a comment or however you recommend to reach out via the post. What happens from there?
So typically I will get comments or DMs and
Mm-hmm.
happily just will respond on TikTok. That's where most of the people I meet via the internet come from is TikTok.
Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
so I'll give them my phone number, give them my email, like whatever communication preference you like,
Mm-hmm.
connect on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
but typically get out of TikTok because that's just not, I don't have notifications on, so I could miss a message.
Sure.
And so I'll usually hop on a phone call with them, see where they're at, what they're looking for. And if they are like ready to buy, or even if they're not ready to buy, honestly, it's just kind of depending on what
Mm-hmm.
they want. And I'm assuming they're a buyer because that's mostly what I've seen from TikTok. But,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there, meet up for some coffee, get like face
Mm-hmm.
to face, get to know each other, get to know how I work, get to know what they're looking for a little bit more and their goals, and then kind of go through the buyer process from there if that's something that they want to do if they choose to work with me.
Gotcha. Okay. And then when you go through the buyer process, obviously it's an extremely long process in some events, but when I say long process, it's multi-step. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's not just, this is the house that I want to buy, let's go look at it and like, let's submit this application. This is all of the application and plus, okay, here's how you submit the application. Here's what we're going to put in for a bid. Here's all of this information that you're needing. And then from there, the bid is submitted. The buyer or the seller rather looks at, okay, here's this person's bid. And once that bid is then accepted, what happens? Do you help with the process of, okay, we're going to run inspections. Here's the people that I recommend reaching out to. How does that go?
Yeah, that's a great question. So once your offer gets accepted, you're under contract. Within 3 days, you need to turn in earnest money, and your
Mm-hmm.
earnest money is typically 1 to 3% of the purchase price, but it's a good faith deposit held by the title company. So a third party, not me, not the listing agent. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good faith deposit showing the seller that you are actually like wanting to close on this home.
Right.
And yeah, after that, inspection, go through appraisal. There's a few more contingencies within the contract. Some apply to every buyer, some don't. Um,
Right.
and it can be as quick as like 2 weeks, can take as long as like
Wow.
60 days. I haven't had a
Wow.
60-day one though, so I don't know too much about that.
Yeah, that's wild. That's a long time.
Yeah.
So, obviously, with real estate, it seems to me that it's more of a female dominated realm. Is that something that you've experienced, or have you experienced that it's about an equal ratio, or there's definitely more men?
I kind of think it's more male dominated, truthfully.
Really?
I know within my brokerage, there are more women than there are
Mm-hmm.
men. So that
Mm-hmm.
feels so good. Being a
Yeah.
woman myself, it probably does depend a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would say it feels a little bit more male dominated.
Yeah. Well, let me just say the women appear to do a better job in marketing because they're the ones that I always see showing their houses on Instagram and TikTok. So maybe it's just that my algorithm knows that I prefer working with women
Yeah.
over men. I don't know. But yeah, that's interesting because again, I feel like it's just what I've seen is women are predominantly in this field. But what has that been like of trying to create your own brand in sort of contrast to men that are also working in this industry? Is it something that's contentious or is it something that's like you're all community, you all feed off of each other's resources and contacts and things like that?
I mean, I would like to think it's an even level playing field. But there are scenarios where it feels like it's not. There are
Mm,
definitely condescending and rude male agents. And I don't know if that they're rude to me just because I'm a woman or they're just rude to
right.
everybody.
Yeah.
A lot of like, I feel like loan officers who are men, I feel talked down to sometimes. And then as far as actually working, sometimes I feel like I do have to work a little bit harder to
Mm-hmm.
get the business because I am a woman.
Okay. And you're talking about the people that you're either like the your prospective clients,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So like a seller, if it's a very tough macho man, I'm just very stereotyping here, but
Yeah.
it's I do think I have to work harder to
Mm-hmm.
show up and not impressed, give
Yeah.
this prospective client the same information
Mm-hmm.
and deliver it in a way where he feels like he can be confident in my ability. So I have to show up
Right.
like a little bit more professionally. Like I have to dress more professional. I
Mm-hmm.
can't in my emails be like smiley face.
Exclamation point,
Yeah,
exclamation point,
like,
exclamation
you
point.
know,
Yeah.
just the woman nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do feel like that is something I'm aware of and something that does happen. Not all the time, I would say for the
Yeah.
majority. Like I'm pretty well respected, but it
Mm-hmm.
is something that I do notice.
Yeah.
But, that's life. I love
Yeah.
being who I am and I'll do that. I'll work harder if I need to
Yeah.
because I can.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's like I work in a male dominated field as well. I work as an engineer, and it's one of those things of like, are you like this with everybody? Are you just rude to everybody? Are you condescending to everybody? And it is definitely something that I keep in the back of my head of like, maybe this is just how they treat everybody and it's not just a I'm a woman thing. But it is definitely something that also I keep in the back of my head of, okay, you need to present yourself in this specific way so that they take you more seriously. Whereas I feel like with other women in the field, I feel like, girl, you and I have both worked our asses off to get where we are. We understand, we have this mutual respect for each other. We know what we've gone through in order to get where we are. And I feel like a more authentic version of myself shows up and it's more present. But I feel ultimately that an authentic version of myself in either capacity of me trying to portray myself in a more professional manner or a more authentic manner, it's still the same work ethic in the background that's guiding both of those figures. It's ultimately just like what you said, how I choose to dress or how I choose to limit my number of exclamation points in an
Hmm.
email is definitely one of those things to just have in the back of your mind, which for better or worse is what it is.
Yeah. And I think when you're working with people too, you do have to have a certain level of, I don't want to say like people pleasing, but you have
Mm.
to be able to relate to people. And I don't know. I don't know if you're a Taylor Swift fan,
Oh
but
yeah.
the song Mirror Ball, like that's how
Mm-hmm.
I feel a lot of the time, that I do have to kind of reflect back other people's personalities. And it's not like I can't be myself. Like, who am I? I never show who I
Right.
am. I'll just be who you want me to be. But I think
Yeah.
there is like a slight, like just working with people, I think you have to do that if you want to be able to relate and
Mm-hmm.
make connections with people.
Yeah. And I 100% think that that is a very admirable trait. And it's definitely one that I have is sort of chameleon effect of, okay, this is the energy that I'm getting from somebody. So this is the energy I'm going to give back. And I feel like that's a really valuable trait in the sense of knowing who you're talking to or who you're working with or what they're expecting back from you. Because if you're mirroring what you're getting, there's no confusion of this is the way that they act. This is probably the way that they want to be treated then. If like they're really poshed and buttoned up and they are very down to brass tacks, like that is how I'm going to be in return. Because if that's what they're putting out there, that's likely what they want in return, is my mentality in that as well.
Yeah. I would say I would have to agree with that. Like if you're talking to an engineer, if my client is an engineer, I'm going to talk to them very differently than I'm talking to like a family member or a friend who's a client. I'm going to be professional either way, right? Like I'm still doing my
Mm-hmm.
job, but I know that there's certain things that they like as far as communication
Mm-hmm.
goes and what content in the communication, like numbers, the
Right.
data, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, agree.
Yeah. And I feel like getting to know your clients and doing that coffee chat that you initially start with is so, so valuable in that regard. And then if it moves into the event where they work with you, then you're able to know that much more about them. But how often is it that people are quote unquote shopping around for real estate agents and they're just trying to figure out what's a best fit? Because I feel like real estate agents are kind of similar to therapists of you kind of have to test the waters and see who you're going to go with, especially if you're not referred a
Mm-hmm.
real estate agent or a realtor. So what does that process look like on your end?
Yeah, I would say the whole like interviewing other agents thing happens more so with sellers.
Okay.
That's just been my experience. I have had some buyers that have interviewed with other agents, but I think typically most buyers will work with the first real estate agent they meet.
Okay. And is that just because typically they find you from a listing and then from that listing they're like, well, I want to see this house, so this is the agent that I have to go through?
Yeah, like they'll come into an open house, you make a connection with
Mm,
them, they'll probably work. They're like, cool, like this is awesome. I never want my clients or prospective clients, people I'm meeting with, to feel like they have to
hmm.
use me because I'm the first agent they met. Like they can't, like, please go. I want, this isn't
Hmm.
about me. Like I would love to work with everyone who comes my way, truly.
Yeah.
But it's not about me. This is their purchase. They need to have
Right.
trust. They need to feel comfortable. And that's always what I want is
Hmm.
I want my clients to feel like they trust me and that they are comfortable and confident in their decision making. And if they can't,
Hmm.
if they don't feel that way with me, like they're going to have a bad time.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So obviously relationships extremely, extremely valuable. Building your own brand has been an absolute asset in your journey. What else would you say is something that everyone should know if they're either looking to buy a house or looking to sell a house before working with a real estate agent?
I don't know. I think I would say the first step is to talk to a real estate agent because
And that's perfectly fine.
everyone has different goals, right? Like
Mhm.
I think you can do all the research you want on the internet. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's all going to be accurate. Like, I
Right.
don't know if I would, if I wasn't in this industry, trust myself to, okay, I look up things all the time. So I maybe shouldn't,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't trust
But
myself
I
to
feel like
actually, like,
yeah.
dude, I'll look into it to see if I can figure things out on my own. But I do think it's
Right.
great to just connect. You don't have to commit to anything. You just have a
Mhm.
conversation. I think as soon as you
Yeah.
think, like you have sort of the little, voices in your head thinking like, hey, I think I want to make a move, or I think I
Yeah.
want to uh, sell my house, or I think I want to have a child, or I think I want to get divorced. Maybe not the
Yeah.
divorce, but any like
Hey, I'm not
big
going to tell my significant other, but hey, I'm going to call this real estate agent, make sure that it's in the budget for me to buy a home right now.
big life changes, anything that's
Mhm.
like any little thoughts, I think that's a great time to just get connected and have a conversation
Yeah.
because then you can build a roadmap and hit some goals if needed. So, as like
Yeah.
buyers, especially first time buyers, I tell them, I'm like, you need to sit down with me like now. I
Mhm.
don't care if you're buying in a year or a year and a half or 2 years. We don't
Yeah.
know that you're like, what if we need to fix your credit? What if
Mhm.
you don't actually have to wait to save more money? What if it's going to
Yeah.
actually cost you more money to keep renting to try and save
Yeah.
more? But
Mhm.
I think it's just good to have conversations, at least so you are aware of kind of the next steps. You can have those kind of benchmarks that you're making sure you're hitting.
Yeah, I
That's
feel like that's great advice. That's great advice to start the conversations early so that way you don't have to feel like you're missing out on something or like you don't know something or that you have to rely on ChatGPT to provide you a very vague answer for what you're
yeah.
looking for.
And then you just have
So I feel like,
support there. Like you have someone who's
yes.
supporting you that you can turn
Mm-hmm.
to. It's just for anything, right? Like, oh, I just saw this house on Zillow. I really want to go see it in person. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, let's go see it. Totally. I
Yeah.
would rather you
Yeah.
tell me, the person who's been like helping you along this journey, than just call a Zillow agent who is probably going to do a terrible job.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Okay, so talking about what you want your clients to get into before getting involved with the home selling or home buying process, but what is one obstacle that you have faced with your journey in real estate?
So my journey as an agent, I would say one obstacle that is kind of a never ending obstacle is
Mm-hmm.
mindset. That's something that it's
Hmm.
it's pretty rough. Like I have to deal with that at different stages and
Mm-hmm.
it's different and I learn to work through it, but then it comes up again. Real estate can be a really exhausting career.
Mm-hmm.
I think because there are just the highest of highs and there's the lowest of lows. Like there's so much riding on you as an
Right.
agent. And deals fall apart, you know?
Yeah.
People are upset and angry, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like it just can be kind of shitty sometimes, truthfully. But then
Yeah.
things are like when it's good, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to imagine that there's a lot of really high moments, but equally there's probably like a good number of lows as well. I won't say the same number of lows because that would be really depressing, but definitely like enough to be, well, I thought both me and my buyer were going to buy this house. And then when something falls through, it's like, wow, shit, well, that sucks. Not
Hmm.
only for them, but for you as well, because you are a part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, just there is a lot of hard work with very little payoff in the moment. Like you're working
Mm-hmm.
for yourself in like 90 days. Like I'm never,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say never, but I most likely will not see the fruits of my labor until a few months later. And
Wow.
so that can be kind of daunting as well. Like that can be something that I struggle with in my mindset. Like, no motivation. Like I am my own business. I'm working for myself. I'm the one who has to keep up with the motivation. I have to
Mm-hmm.
do things when I'm tired, when I'm sick, when I don't want to. And sometimes I don't, but I'm letting myself down, and
Right.
it can just be this whole thing that I'm just
Yeah.
talking to yourself in your head about.
Which is a dangerous space to be, I'll tell you what. That is the hardest spot to be in, is definitely in your own head of, well, here's all of this stuff that's happening. We can go ahead and spiral about this every single night before we go to bed.
Yep.
Well, awesome, Miriam. I really loved hearing about your journey and hearing about what you look for in the realm of markets and in the realm of clients and what you're able to provide to them. Where can the listeners find you on social media or on your own website? Like, where would you recommend they find you?
If you want to see some really cool homes, TikTok is the place to be at Maryam Sells Denver. That's also my Instagram, so you can check that out. And my website, maryamgates.com. Those are kind of the
Perfect.
spots. But I have my phone number and email listed on my TikTok and on my Instagram. So if social media is not your thing, you're not paying attention to notifications like me, a text or a phone call or an email, totally fine.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Consider the Source podcast. And as always, please, please, please leave us a comment and a review. And please let us know in the comments what you'd like to see more of and who you'd like to see on next. As always, you can also follow my social medias at the Sarah Smiles Network. And be sure to tune in next week to hear more episodes about more women's stories and more small female founded businesses in the Denver area. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye.